So, Stuart, your latest opinion essay for the New York Times is entitled "Nikki Haley Threw It All Away," and you write in part, quote, "Ms. Haley, for all her talents, embodies the moral failure of the party in its drive to win at any cost, a drive so ruthless and insistent that it has transformed the GOP into an autocratic movement. It's not that she has changed positions to suit the political moment, or even that she has abandoned beliefs she once claimed to be deeply held. It's that the 2023 version of Miss Haley is actively working against the core values that the 2016 Miss Haley would have held to be the very foundation of her public life. As governor, her defining action was signing legislation removing the Confederate flag from the state capitol. This came after the horrific massacre at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, and after social media photos surfaced of the murderer holding Confederate flags. You continue. Then came Donald. You had some very fine people on both sides, Trump. And by 2019, Miss Haley was defending the Confederate flag. In an interview that December, Ms. Haley told the conservative radio host Glenn Beck that the Charleston church shooter had hijacked the Confederate flag and that people saw it as service, sacrifice, and heritage. My God, Stuart, how does she define herself when she has operated in such undefining terms?
Yeah, I mean, just a few weeks ago, she was campaigning for Herschel Walker and talked about deporting Senator Warnock. So, I mean, this just continues. There's another universe we could be living in. I mean, what if Nikki Haley had stayed who Nikki Haley said she was in 2016? When you look back, it's hard to say that her predictions of what would happen with Trump actually were underplaying what happened with Trump. I mean, she wasn't out there saying, she was saying he was a bad choice. She wasn't saying he was going to try to overthrow the government of the United States. So she's perfectly positioned, had she stayed as that person, to come in and say, look, we need to go in a different direction. I'm that person. I didn't kiss the ring. I stayed who I was. I cared about being right more than I cared about what your opinion was. And that's what we need. And that, look, I don't think the party is at a place where that could win a message now, but that is something that would place her, let's say, on the Liz Cheney side of history. And I just don't understand how you can go out and say things like, Donald Trump is everything I teach my kids in kindergarten not to be, and then go out and support that person. It's just a level of sort of self-humiliation for what? To run for president?
Well, yeah,
for what?
Yeah, for what? For 2%? I mean, again, she said in 2016, I will not stop until we fight a man that chooses not to disavow the KKK. That is not part of our party. That is not who we want as president. You can look at the quotes of Marco Rubio. You can look at the quotes of Ted Cruz. You can look at the quotes of Lindsey Graham. All of these people that became his biggest sycophants were people that actually said the most withering, delivered some of the most withering attacks on him. But this is what I don't understand, Stuart. I mean, so let's just say that none of these people have the political character to do the right thing. Thing I've never really understood is that even if they don't have the political character to do the right thing, I know, and you know, that even in the Republican Party, there is, if not an anti-Trump lane, there is a lane for somebody to be strong and go, oh, come on. All that guy's done lately is lose. I'm a winner. And let's leave the past and to be strong, to be tough, and to stare him down. Would you support Donald Trump if he's a nominee? He's not going to be the nominee. I'm going to beat him because this guy's a loser. It's what he does. There is a lane for that. And my question is, why haven't Republicans stepped into that lane, even over the past 6-7 years, and been strong and taken it to Donald Trump?
Well, I'm not sure, Joe, that they really think they are losing, because I don't think that they really judge success the way that you and I would judge it and the way most people would judge it, which is, are we carrying the day in our country? They see themselves fighting for a cause. And that cause is about preservation of a mythical past. So they want someone who's going to go out there and reflect their values. It's really an aggrievement mentality they've developed. When you and I were coming up, under Ronald Reagan, to be born in America, you won life's lottery. In their view, they're victims. And Donald Trump is someone who speaks to their victimhood. So as long as they're hearing that, I think that is incredibly satisfying to them. And they don't want to give in. And so I'm personally not sure that this winnability argument is going to be persuasive with Republicans, because they want someone who'll go out there and fight for the sake of fighting and make them feel better about that fight. And I think ultimately they're confident that they are on the right side of history and they are going to win. And I think that gives them an entirely different perspective on it than.
But Stuart, I mean,
you and I would.
That's just so screwed up, Stuart. And it is, like you said, it's the exact opposite of what we grew up with when we had presidents that won, like Reagan, who won by a landslide. Reagan, who won 49 states in 1984. George Herbert Walker Bush, for God's sakes, won in a landslide victory. And they were everything these people are not. They loved America. They talked about America's greatness. Hold on. They were optimistic. They talked about how America's greatness, how America's best days were lying ahead. When I talk to these people, a lot of them my friends, they're always telling me how much America sucks, how horrible the military is, how horrible the intel agencies are, how terrible everything is with America. And I say, I give them the data to show that they're wrong. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that America's great. And by the way, I said this while Trump was president, too. Despite Trump, America is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. You look at our military, you look at our economy, you just go down. You look at childhood poverty rates dropping. You look at teenage pregnancy rates, and there's 70-year lows. You could go down one indicator after another, and America is doing pretty damn great. They don't want to hear it. They just want to talk about how bad America is.
Yeah, there are models for successful Republicans out there. You look at Larry Hogan in Maryland, Phil Scott in Vermont, Charlie Baker in Massachusetts. I mean, if the party had any sense, they'd look at these wildly successful Republican governors and say, hey, look, you're selling our product in the most tough market. If we could carry those states in presidential races, we'd run the world. So, but those governors, Joe, they can't even pick their own state party chairman. They are so out of touch with the party. And they're treated with, at best, benign neglect by the party. There's a sort of aggrievement, victim culture that has taken over our party. And I don't think that that's going to change. I think when Nikki Haley gets on stage with Donald Trump, he's going to take her apart. And I still think the party is more likely than not to nominate Donald Trump again.
Okay.
And by the way, those governors in the Northeast that Stuart was talking about, they all have approval ratings in the 70s.
Yes.
Well, one of them please step up and run, because this can't be the case. It can't be the case that the Republican Party is so completely hollowed out and dysfunctional that they can't come up with a normal candidate.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Chris Sununu does.
Well,
he's got high approval ratings
and he says
in New Hampshire.
You say when you ask him, would you support Donald Trump as the nominee? He says he's not going to be the nominee.
Right.
Absolutely.
Next
He will not
question.
answer the question, because if you truly believe you're going to win, and if you believe that you have something to contribute to America, then you don't imagine Donald Trump as a nominee. You imagine yourself winning. And you know what Republican and Democrats and the American people like? What you said, winning. So talk about winning and stop sucking up to this dysfunctional, craven, fascist maniac.
And if you don't believe all that, just to a guy who keeps losing elections to the Republican Party.
So,
Stuart Stevens, thank you so much.
Thank you, Stuart.
Good to see you guys.
Howdy, baby. Howdy,
all right, coming up.